Welcome everyone to this short but important section. Chat model classes, such as Chat OpenAI, output chat message objects by implementation. Sometimes, however, we need to output in a different data type: a string, a list, a datetime object, a CSV, or another convenient type. Well, enter the realm of output parsers. We'll start with the most straightforward one, the string output parser, which, abiding by its name, converts an output to a string object. Let's demonstrate how it works. I've opened a fresh Jupyter notebook containing the environment variable setup, 3 imports, and the definition of a Chat OpenAI object. Note that I've also imported a new class, string output parser. Ensure you implement and run all cells in order. Once done, proceed by creating an object called messageHuman as an instance of the human message class, and insert the following content. Can you give me an interesting fact I probably didn't know about? Let's now define a variable called response and set it equal to chat invoke. As an argument, we'll assign a list containing a single element, the messageHuman object. Run the cell and display the variable. We obtain an intriguing fact stored as an AI message object. It's time we utilize the string output parser class to extract the content out of this object. I'll construct a new variable with a descriptive name and assign it as an instance of the target class. Next, I'll create another variable called response parsed and configure it as the result of an invoke method applied on the string output parser object. Let's pass the response variable as an argument. That's correct. We can imply the invoke method to an output parser component as well. Running the cell, we see that the content of the AI message is successfully extracted, and we obtain the desired string output. All right, we still have more to learn about output parsers and their capabilities. See you in the next lesson, where we'll introduce another one, the comma-separated list output parser. Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we introduced the string output parser class and demonstrated how it parses chat messages to strings. We'll delve into another output parser from LangChain's robust assortment, the comma-separated list output parser. Let's get to coding. I've prepared the familiar setup and have imported a new parser class. Additionally, I've changed the content of the human message to, "I've recently adopted a dog. Could you suggest some dog names?" What we're aiming for is to have all names as elements of a list object. Let's create a response variable and apply our familiar invoke method to the chat object. Assign the human message stored inside a list as an argument. Print out the content of the response variable. We obtain a standard response in the form of a numbered list. Let's now create an object called list output parser, assigning it as an instance of the comma-separated list output parser class. As before, define an object called response parsed. Set it equal to list output parser.invoke and pass response as an argument. Run the cell and display the result. That's not exactly what we had in mind, is it? The response parsed variable is indeed a list, but not the one we expected. We wanted to have each name as a separate element. Instead, we obtained the entire content as a single element. So, how can we arrive at the desired result? Well, by instructing the chat model, of course. We can access these instructions by typing list output parser dot get format instructions. Assign the expression as an argument to a print function. We obtain the following instruction. Your response should be a list of comma-separated values, for example, foo, bar, baz. All right, let's get back to our human message. Redefine the content as an f-string and create an instance of the parser class within curly braces. Then call the getFormatInstructions method. Run the cell and enter a new one to extract the content of the human message. Apply the print function to display the result nicely. We see that the instructions have been successfully added to the message. Great! Invoke the chat object anew. This time, we obtained a result aligned with our expectations, a set of names separated by commas without additional text. If we now try to parse this output, we retrieve a list with each name as a separate element. Excellent job, everyone. Let's conclude the lesson here. In the next one, we'll apply the same approach to a date-time parser to solidify and expand our knowledge on the topic. See you there! Hey there! In this lesson, we'll investigate the date-time parser in LangChain. To demonstrate how it works, we'll need to make only a few modifications to the code created in the previous lesson, so there's no need to write it anew. I suggest you use the same notebook as the last lesson, or create a copy and work there. Run the cell required for setting up the OpenAI API key. Next, substitute the old parser class from the previous lesson with DateTime Output Parser. Run the cell to import the classes. Then modify the human message such that its response necessarily includes a date. I'll go with the following question. When was the Danish poet Piet Hein born? Run the next couple of cells. As expected, invoking the chain retrieves the poet's birth date. Next, change the name of the parser object to DateOutputParser, set it equal to the DateTimeOutputParser class, and run the cell to initialize the object. Before invoking the parser, don't forget to replace its name. Run the cell and wait for the output. Oh, we hit an error. Or rather, an output parser exception, reading, could not parse datetime string. And that makes sense. It's impossible to parse the response as a datetime object, as the string doesn't consist only of the date, but it's a complete sentence. And even if it only consisted of the date, it wouldn't be in the format needed for the parser to transform it to a datetime object. How do we resolve such issues? You already know, by instructing the chat model. Let's print out the instructions for the DateTime Output Parser. They specify the necessary format explicitly and mention that the chat model should only return the datetime string, no other words. All right, let's get back to our human message. Change the content to an F string and retrieve the instructions through the getFormatInstructions method within curly braces. Print out the new content. Perfect. Rerun the rest of the cells. Our result is in precisely the desired format. Let's now check if the parser will successfully parse the string as a datetime object. Excellent! I hope you find this parsing technique more intuitive and manageable as you practice. Looking forward to seeing you in the next section, where we'll dive into the long-awaited topic of the LangChain expression language.